Team Fort 2, a game so old, made before Skibidi Toilet fans were even born, and it experienced the era of buff Boston Germa. TF2 has had to endure a lot of problems in its time, from competitors, to cheaters, to content droughts, and some real freaks in the player base. And yet, somehow, TF2 didn't just survive, but it's come back with a boom, with it hitting record player counts just this year, 16 years after release. But that's not to say all the problems are gone, there are still a large amount of problems. But let's talk about just why TF2 is back. Okay, before we explain why we're so back, we just have to cover why it was so over bros before. First things first, TF2 had a strong life from its release in 2007 as both a standalone and as part of the infamous Orange Box. It received frequent updates and changes, skins, as well as promotional videos by Valve to promote the game and its cast, which still hold up today with their infamous software, Source Filmmaker, which has gone on to be part of many fan animations, among other things. Anyway, despite a few blips such as bot issues and the comp scene being not too great, the game was relatively fine, as it had a few competitors, but nothing major. Pairing that with TF2 going free to play in 2011, all this helped TF2 player counts to stay stable and healthy, and the player morale good as well. That was until TF2 met its first ever true rival back in May 2016, Overwatch. Now remember viewers, this was not the Overwatch we have in the current day. This was the fun Overwatch, where the silliness was ramped up to 11. Now if we look at the player count on Steam, the release of Overwatch didn't really impact TF2's player count, but it did create an excellent rivalry. People making videos, comparisons, each community jabbing at each other because they believed their game was the best and that they had the funniest, most crisp memes of 2016. This rivalry was going on good until TF2 received its newest update, the Meet Your Match update, made for those sweaty people who wanted Valve to make a rank system, as well as changes to the matchmaking. Whilst it wasn't confirmed, this is supposedly the beginning of the end of TF2's support from Valve. Why? Because people hated this update. The way that Valve had gone about making rank was just off for a variety of reasons I'm not going to get into. There's countless of videos explaining it on YouTube, and I'm sure they could explain it 1,000 times better than me. But the biggest problem that TF2 had was the matchmaking and the death of many community servers. The matchmaking in casual went from just grabbing any players and throwing them in together to skill-based matchmaking, something that is annoying in any game you play. Why would I want skill-based in casual when ranked exists? Come on guys, come on, make me a dev. Anyway, a lot of players did not like this update. It's been deemed the update that killed TF2, and from what I can tell, while the player counts didn't drop off, it was probably because of a similar reason as to why Overwatch 2 still has so many players. The game's free. An entire generation of TF2 players quit the game at the loss of fun matchmaking and their favourite community servers. This is TF2's darkest age. Sorry, I mean darkest age so far. And for this to happen with its biggest competitor only being 2 months old, it did not spell a good time for TF2. It's been rumoured that Valve saw the response to this update and concluded that this was the point where they would stop supporting the game. But they'd made a promise for one last update, with the Meet versus Match poll. This poll determined the next update of the game, the Heavy update or the Pyro update, and the winner was Pyro. Now you may be asking, didn't you just say Meet Your Match was meant to be the last update? They were probably like, we don't really want to make this, but we promised the players. That's fine, just cancel it and sell all the skins for £20 each. Get to work, slave. No one would be dumb enough to do that. So 1 year later, the TF2 community got the Jungle Inferno update for Pyro. New map, bigger weapons, and contracts. And people liked it a lot. But I tell you what they wouldn't like is everything else afterwards. That was it. Even to this day, that was the last significant update. I mean, how hyped can you really get for each year's newest loot boxes? Not very. Didn't stop people logging in, mind you, but these were not great times for TF2. And with TF2 in disarray, this was when Overwatch was starting to gain notoriety. It still got updates, it still got game modes, it got characters, skins, all of it, as well as having many content creators still pumping out videos. Post Jungle Inferno was the lowest the players had reached, as after the initial hype was gone, people just still didn't have much to stick around for. Plus, Overwatch was still getting support, had a better rank system, and was the newest, shiniest thing around. But this wouldn't be the worst of times either, viewer. There were content creators like Lazy Purple and Uncle Dane that helped keep the game alive with their entertaining videos. It sort of reinvigorated the community. But this period was merely the eye of the storm, as whilst player counts would never get lower than this, the influx of player counts to come was in fact the darkest time in TF2 history. Now you may be asking, why would that be a bad thing, J-Man? More players means more people enjoying the game. And let me retort, viewer. Who said there were people? The spirits of MVM had possessed the TF2 sniper, giving him improved mobility, enhanced vocals, the ability to headshot anyone within a millisecond of seeing them, as well as being, usually, extremely racist. He had become the infamous TF2 bot, but he wasn't alone for long. In silence, he expanded his armies into the thousands, and then the horde was unleashed. The TF2 bot invasion era was by far the worst period to play the game ever. There was almost a guaranteed chance that when you entered a match, you would get sniped by an Omegatronic bot that was aimbotting on the enemy team, whilst the Omegatronic on your team would mic spam the whole match. Oh, but J-Man, why didn't they just use the kick option? Even if you could, as a team, vote out the bot without the current bots saving it or hiding by using someone else's name, you just get a new bot in about 5 seconds. Yeah, the game was pretty much unplayable. You wanna know the ironic part of it all? This is about the time I tried to play TF2 for the first time, because I'd only recently gotten a gaming PC. I hated it, could not stand it. Could you really blame me? You couldn't. This was TF2's darkest age. Surely the devs would see the trouble the game's in, and by extension, the key sales were also in danger, and jump to TF2's rescue. Nope, they didn't. They didn't care. Great. Playerbase had to endure this for way longer than they should have before Valve did anything to help fix it. And when they did, it didn't exactly get rid of all the bots, just a large amount of them. To this day, you can find bots in lobbies, and they're still annoying. Mind you, they can't stop you kicking them anymore, so that's pretty sweet. Now people have mixed feelings. See, they were happy about the bot fixes, but annoyed that it took so long for the game that is consistently in Steam's top chart to become playable again. Regardless, the game was in a playable state once more, and this led to there being more players, but once again slowly falling off, until the thing that saved TF2 happened in July 2023. The janitor at Valve Studios had had enough. He had watched his favourite game die slowly and painfully, and he wouldn't have it. So he did something no one saw coming. He snuck into the offices late at night, and he did it. He added new content to TF2 that wasn't skins. He added the seal. The player count skyrocketed, the community celebrated. Players from games all over hailed this new coming of their lord, TF2 seal. And it couldn't have come at a better time. Overwatch 2 had been in the process of pissing off its entire player base, meaning more people would fully over to the superior game. But Blizzard would not allow Valve to win so easily. They had updated their game for years. Their game was newer, modern, polished, and they would not take this sitting down. They prepared for an invasion. Merely 2 months after the seals released in August, a final showdown. The Overwatch release on Steam was taking the fight to the home front. For the first time ever, they would be on the same platform, able to directly compete with one another. So, the TF2 fans reunited and re-entered the servers to boost their player counts. They had been fighting Overwatch for almost a decade now, and they weren't going to lose at the final hurdle. The game with the highest player count would be the winner. Yeah, TF2 stomped them. I mean, you have a community that's constantly pissed at the devs for making bad decisions versus players who love their game and have become just kind of indifferent to the lack of content. Even now, TF2 is a more consistent player base than Overwatch 2 on Steam. And I'll be honest, it's probably because a lot of old Overwatch players have jumped ship. How do I know this? Well, he's me. I'm sick of Overwatch. I need a replacement, so I figured why not try out TF2 and see if I can really get into it this time. And I get it. This game is special, has way more soul than Overwatch. Despite TF2 having its own problems like key prices, a history of very bad people playing, and those comics that got discontinued even though they were so good. The game is great, and I'm happy now is the point I can actually start my TF2 experience. It's such a good time to start the game. Not to mention that I gambled and won the TF2 equivalent of $1 gazillion. Never stop till you win, guys, don't be a quitter. Plus, it helps TF2 has real PvE, unlike the other game. Wait, what do you mean it's pay to play? Ugh. Regardless of TF2's own issues, I've come to love this game and its flaws. Unlike Overwatch, which is more like my abusive partner rather than my loving wife that is a bit alcoholic. Regardless, TF2 is back on top and will be for a while longer at least. And now, I'm almost certain this game just can't die. So pick it up. It's in a better state than it has been in the past few years, and it's all thanks to our good friend, The Seal. Also subscribe and like, please. Anyway, I have to go feed my gambling addiction in MVM and try and get an Australian. See you in 10 years.